This is Connie, my Nikon D5300 camera. My main camera for most of my photography journey so far. And I thought that this week we should take a look at how I ended up with her and why. If this is your first time here, hello, I'm Mark, an amateur hobby photographer from Banbridge in Northern Ireland. And for the past year on YouTube, I've been sharing my photographs in order to show that no matter the subject and no matter the result, the fun is just to get out there and take photographs. And this week, I'm going to do something a bit different. I thought I'd share with you the reason why I have the Nikon D5300 as my main camera. And as there's a bit of a story, let's get right into it. You know, for the longest time, music was my main hobby. I enjoyed playing, I enjoyed writing and recording. But 2025 was the year that I realised that it wasn't going to be sustainable for one reason or another. So being a relatively creative person, I needed another outlet. And photography came back to me again. It was something that I had discovered years before, enjoyed it, but I set it aside because I really just hadn't time or the inclination to do it because so many other things were, taking up all my time as well. So I started initially with the iPhone. It gave me an excuse just to get out for a walk. I had the iPhone in my pocket, very unobtrusive, and I just went out to take photographs. You'll see last year that I set myself a challenge that I would do a photograph a week, and I had a randomizer that spat out subjects, and whatever the subject that was, I would photograph. The iPhone worked well up until week 13, the link here, where I had to do photographs of birds, and the iPhone, with the zoom that it has, just wasn't able to take the photographs that I wanted. So I then dug out my old Nikon D5300 that I nicknamed Nikki. And at that time I borrowed a zoom lens, which is this one here. And you can see just from this little bit of footage how I introduced the camera to the world. And that worked great. That met my needs there for that week. And to be honest, I knew from that point on that I wasn't going to go back to using the iPhone and that I was going to be using the camera from then on. And it worked fantastic. It's a great camera. The images you're seeing with it, I don't think you could fault at all. The quality was there. The lenses give me, great pictures. I tell you, great camera. So why did I then change from that camera to the Nikon D5300? Well, there were two issues. One week I discovered that the photographs I was taking, I needed to get down low and I couldn't see the screen. So therefore, when I took the photograph, the horizon wasn't quite straight. I didn't think much about it until it was pointed out to me. And once it was pointed out to me, I couldn't unsee it. So then I wanted to look about for a camera that would allow me to get down low, but actually to be able to see what I was taking, to see the frame lines. And I needed something then with a flip screen, which this one doesn't have. Also, and this is more about a experience type thing, it was this here, the missing memory card cover. Somewhere along the line that got broken, and I did get a replacement door for it, but the amount of effort it would take to replace it, it's something that was a bit beyond my abilities. I probably would have had to send it off somewhere, and that probably would have ended up being expensive because, there's just tape there. You put your hand over it all the time, and as the sun came out, it melted in my hand. It was just sticky and annoying. So two reasons really. I wanted a flip screen and I wanted a camera with a proper door. So I looked around then, to replacing Nikki. So why did I go for the D5300? Well, there's a very good reason for that. The D5300 has everything I need. First of all, it's got the same size. It's the same form factor. It's an APS-C camera. It's a smaller camera. If you look at a photograph here of a larger camera, you'll see that it is quite a bit bigger. It's also then quite a bit heavier. And I'm a small guy, I've got small hands, and to have a bigger camera, a heavier camera, was not something that I wanted. Also, a bigger camera makes it a wee bit more obvious, and I like to take photographs and be, unobtrusive. to be fairly invisible, and I thought with a bigger camera that wouldn't be the case. Also, lenses. I had the standard zoom lens. I also had the 35mm lens, and eventually I got around to getting my own zoom lens. So the lenses, I already had the lenses, so I wanted something that had the same DX fitting, and the 5300 ticked that box as well. So yeah, the D5300 has the flip screen. It has a fixed battery cover. It's light in the same way that my other one was. It's nice to hold in the hand, and the image quality is probably the same, if not better. The 3100 has 16 megapixels, and this one has 24 megapixels, so there's a bit of a jump there. And again, the transition from the two cameras was seamless because I had the lenses. A couple of just extra things that were on it that didn't take me long to get my head around, and because of that, this has been my main camera, and I've loved it, and I still love it. And it's the camera that I go to if I want to get out there and take photographs, especially with the the longer zoom lens. That's been a really helpful thing because it's got image stabilization in it, and obviously it's got a bit of a longer reach than the 35mm, which would be a 50mm in full frame terms. So yeah, that's basically it. This is the camera that I'm using, especially now for the the new subject, the new project, the abandoned, forgotten, and left behind. Because again, with the zoom lens on it, I can see things and just zoom in rather than walk. Sometimes fences are in the way, and the zoom lens allows me to see through the fence and get to the image or the photograph that I want. So yeah, Connie, my Nikon D5300, the camera that I always turn to. But then I got my head turned with another. But that's a story for another time. See you next week.